IPOA on this criminal assault and attempted assassination of our leaders. We expect IPOA to treat this evidence with a grave concern that it deserves. Any attempt to unlawfully take the life of a human being, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or rank, ought to be condemned in the strongest terms possible. Members of the press, thanks for coming. We will begin. This is a statement by the United Opposition Leaders, issued from the Liberation House. Fellow Kenyans and friends of Kenya, we thank you for joining us this morning. The United Opposition has one aim: to rescue and liberate our beloved nation from the clutches of the tyrannical and inept Ruto dictatorship. That is why we and the majority of Kenyans say unequivocally, one term. Just a week ago, members of the United Opposition, whilst on a Meet the People tour, a right that is enshrined in our Constitution, were met by violence of police bullets and a state-sponsored militia. Specific members of our teams, namely Senator Methu, Honorable Victor Munyaka, and Jamnik Kamau, were targeted for assassination. The evidence is clear in the bullet holes aimed at specific windscreens of their vehicles. We thank God for their protection. Otherwise, we would today be eulogizing them. Their only crime having been exercising their freedom of association and expression. We will not tire from reminding the Ruto administration that freedom of movement, expression, and association are among the fundamental rights guaranteed in our Constitution and in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as well as on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. On Tuesday this week, after the Halloween attack, the United Opposition presented irrefutable evidence to the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, on this criminal assault and attempted assassination of our leaders. We expect IPOA to treat this evidence with a grave concern that it deserves. Any attempt to unlawfully take the life of a human being, regardless of ethnicity, gender, or rank, ought to be condemned in the strongest terms possible. We therefore expect IPOA to hold the commanding officer who led this assault accountable. The Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, and Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kipchumba Murkomen, must be held accountable. The buck stops with them. We can no longer allow the brazen criminal acts and subversion of the rule of law to continue because of orders from above. We are saying enough is enough. We have heard Ruto saying enough is enough, but we remind him as an employee, you can never tell your employer enough is enough. You can only pack your bags and go. We are his employers. We are telling him enough is enough. This has to stop. He cannot create a Haiti-like militia in Kenya to destroy the peace and tranquility that we have been having. Fellow Kenyans, our country is ailing. Some even say it is at war with itself. not because of the global recession or pandemic, but because of an epidemic called William Samoei Ruto. The instruments of power are in the hands of a person who simply doesn't care for the well-being of the citizens he purports to govern. For instance, we are aware of a cargo of 25,000 metric tons of sugar that recently landed in our port at Mombasa. This sugar is already on its way to Western Kenya, to a Western Kenya sugar factory to be repackaged and sold to Kenyans. Yet, it was condemned as unfit for human consumption in its country of origin. That it has been cleared quickly and is now headed to be distributed in this country shows the heartlessness of this regime. They have made money their god. We demand that these consignments already earmarked as publicly condemned be earmarked as publicly condemned and destroyed immediately, so that it is not used to poison Kenyans. I will let one of our youth read the rest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Ken Babu, and I proceed. Fellow Kenyans, this is a criminal regime that not only resorts to willful violence against its people, but resorts to physically harming its populace unfit for public consumption of goods, but also attempts to limit its people via willful and defunding education, which is a right. Just a week ago, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, John Mbadi, publicly declared that Kenya can no longer sustain free primary and secondary education. The proposed cuts to capitation and demand that Kenyan parents pay more for the education is an affront to Constitution, having been entrenched in Article 43(1)(f), which guarantees the rights to education for everyone, while Article 53(1)(b) specifically ensures every child's right for free and compulsory basic education. Hence, defunding education is not only insensitive but unconstitutional. We implore us to reason to these words of Abraham Lincoln, and I quote, "Do not interfere with anything in the Constitution. That must be maintained, for it is the only safeguard of our liberties." We must tell the illegitimate regime of Mr. Ruto that Kenyans want education, health, and other basic needs, and not handouts in the name of empowerment. And therefore, we all agree that having Mr. Ruto as the Kenyan president today is one of the most historical mistakes that ever happened in this country. And therefore, one term is unstoppable. One term.
One term.
Another one?
Yeah. It will be finished by state. Honorable.
Lady.
No.
Lady.
No.
Let's have a lady.
It's gone. Ndio ya mwisho. Okay.
Under Ruto's torrid regime, our beloved country has in under 3 years, we have been subjected to socio-economic and emotional assault as the people of Kenya, which is illegal, unconstitutional, and criminal in every form. This is not speculation. We repeat, this is a fact. Their first and only qualifying modus operandi is theft, destruction, and death as the Ruto state-governed policy. 2, they are now scrutinizing future taxes, a criminal and yes, unconstitutional move to borrow externally against future taxes without parliamentary sanction or debate. It is not only a singularly crude betrayal of public trust, but also a direct violation of the Public Finance Act. The behind closed doors is a reckless scheme to sell off Kenya's future. To conceal their criminal operations, they have created murky financial vehicles called special purpose vehicles. These are run by faceless technocrats and unaccountable corporations. The primary objectives of this vehicle is to divert public resources, highlight robbery. It is shameless thievery, the likes of which no nation on planet Earth has ever seen or should witness. We call for the following with immediate urgency. Number one, Parliament must reclaim its authority and halt the illegal securitization of public taxes. Two, an independent audit into all SPVs being used to handle public resources. Three, the government must restore full capitation to schools and publish a clear time-bound commitment to fund free education as enshrined in the law. Four, Kenyans must mobilize, organize, and resist through civic engagement, legal action, and national solidarity.
Yeah, it was resolved that one of us should do the conclusion, but of course we'll be taking the necessary questions. This is very brief. Friends of goodwill, as the united opposition, we will not be silent as our country is auctioned. We will not bow down to intimidation. We will not allow the proliferation of fake news and propaganda to define our time. We will not allow a nation built on liberation to be destroyed by deception. Mr. Ruto, together with your team, you're on borrowed time. Hashtag one term is not just a reality, it is an eventuality. May God bless our Republic, Kenya. Thank you.
One term. One term.
You can take the question.
Yeah, one term. We can take the question. If there's any, and you can actually observe our inclusive nature of presentation. We will not leave the youth behind, and we will not leave the women behind. Nobody will be left behind. We do not claim monopoly of presentation going forward. Any question? And any segment of the Kenyan community without being branded divisive. Absolutely no. We are not a divisive thing, and I think our sister was on one such trip in the States. If that's what you're referring to, I think Mother should handle that.
We have already said in our statement, a desperate regime resorts to... There's no place on earth I know where you call a meeting and only certain people come. When it's a public meeting, everybody was there. So we shall react.
Thank you. So if the event... Yes, sir. Some of us are very clear. We have stood, I can tell you very authoritatively, when I chaired the first ministerial commission to revitalize East African community. and it went on now to build on the mistake we made in 1977 when we killed East African community. Now we are fully back on East African community situation. So some of us stand for borderless East Africa and the rights of establishment. The parliament sitting in Arusha should be able to quickly deliberate on some of these things. So if you look at it that way, does it matter which side of the lake is McGill Island? Doesn't really matter, because we want to see a borderless East Africa where professionals can have rights of establishment in Kampala, in Dar es Salaam, in Kigali, in Juba, in Nairobi. That is the vision. So this other one is, in my view, permit me to say, a bit narrow-minded.
Also add and say this. It is very well for Uganda and Kenya to agree on Migingo. Any agreement, we have not forgotten. We are still focused on the criminal acts. Kenya government, and a suit will be filed also extending to Ugandan government for the criminality. We have not forgotten the cross-border abduction of Mwambi. It looks like the three original states of East Africa are collaborating on oppressing their citizens. We want to hear their voices telling us whether they
What's the take about the Tanzanian move? They are proposing to ban all foreigners, including Kenyans, from creating.
You cannot think of free movement of goods and services without talk about businessmen and women. So we would want East Africans to enjoy being East Africa. Here in Uganda, in Kigali, or in Bujumbura, then you have to be restricted. No, the longer term vision of integration incorporates a situation.
treaty
treaty
and the integration.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the last one. Yesterday we had what the Secretary General saying the ban by Tanzania was a reaction to what happened back in May.
To freedom of movement of a Kenyan advocate or senior counsel like Mother going to represent a client in Dar es Salaam
Or observe.
In any event,
but I had actually successfully observed Tundu Lissu's case on the 24th of April. But I issued a, it will become just a debate on East Africa.
And yet command is on capitation.
And attempted.
When are you announcing that
and how we unveil our joint presidential candidate or lineup is our prerogative. We will do so as and when we decide to. Sometimes next year, that will be our secret weapon. But we want to also ask IEBC, now that they're properly constituted. There are many constituencies, 6 of them. There are many wards. And we will be whipping this administration for 3 months. and the sugar is already hit